welcome back to our third video on the GT3 RS. Now we've done a driving review, an in-depth review, so if you want to go check this out, there's a link below to go check them out. And it is a must because this car is insane. And now for the introduction of this video, this is a new segment. We're calling it Inte-Review, where we are actually going to introduce and interview the owners of the cars to give you some buyer's guide, some advice, and some really in-depth knowledge of what these cars are actually like to own. We are,
but this is just on a whole new level.
TVEC.
This is a performance car after all, so you'd expect it to be a lot more rough in terms of ride.
Reactions.
Yo!
Reviews. Handmade engineering underneath this monster. Messing around.
4 liters of fuel. Eugene, you're paying for this.
It's crazy. I'm not gonna have enough.
Like, comment, subscribe, enjoy. So we are now outside of the beautiful GT3 RS, and actually with the owner, or part owner I should say. And we're going to have more or less a conversation. It's not a direct interview, but it's a conversation getting to know the car itself, and it's something fresh and new for the channel and the motoring industry. So we're going to just talk a little bit about the design, the pros and cons, what it's like to live with, and really compare it to the previous generation because he has got to experience the previous generation. So starting off, how do you feel about the design in general? Because I personally think it is not directly beautiful, but it is just insane.
Yeah, I would have to agree there. So for the most part, I would say it's one of the best looking cars out there. I mean, all these black accents with all the aerodynamics, all the additions you can have on this car. I mean, if you get the Visac package, you've got the exposed carbon fiber. I think it's one of the best looking cars out there today.
Definitely. Like I say, it may not be the most beautiful. Like maybe you look at something like a Ford GT, which is still insane, but it has the curves and the smooth angles, or a 296. But to me, when you see this, I don't really care how beautiful the other things are because it just has such a presence. Now, what would you prefer in terms of looks, this or the previous generation GT3 RS?
Personally, the new one is better looking to me. Obviously, like I mentioned, the aerodynamics. I think you've got more specifications, you've got more additions you can have. I think the Visac package is the ultimate. Obviously, that comes with a big price, so not everybody's going to like it. I mean, the exposed carbon fiber is good. Comparing it to the old generation, I mean, the rear tail lights is just magnificent. That bright red strip running across the entire back, it's just so magnificent.
It definitely modernizes the car a lot, I'd say.
Yeah,
Makes the car look a lot more newer. The big thing I'd say about the previous generation is that it did kind of look like a 911 with a big wing and some extra parts. This, if you park a 992 Carrera next to this, you think that this isn't the same category of car. You don't think that they are the same car, which is something very special about this. Now, obviously, underneath, this car does have a more potent engine than the previous generation, and you can really feel it. But overall, what I really want to talk about is the actual driving experience compared to the previous generation. So from the man himself who's driven both of them and understands both cars, lived with them, all of us want to know, what is the differences driving them?
So obviously, they haven't increased their power too much. I think it's only 10 or 15 more horsepower, and they've actually got less Newton meters of torque in this car. But that's all for the track and designed to make it go fast around corners, faster around the track. So it's not ready for straight line speed. Obviously, top speed only being 300 kilometers, actually 297, somewhere there.
Something just about.
So comparing it to the previous generation, this car, I don't know how Porsche did it, but it just blows it out of the water. The handling on this, it's on rails. Going around a corner, the car will not move. If you move the steering wheel, it will go where you want it to. It just handles magnificently. The carbon ceramic brakes, amazingly strong. Just an awesome car to drive.
I definitely have to agree with that. And if you want to check out the driving, we do have a video on that where you can just see how potent this car is. And like he said, the power and torque isn't much different to the previous one, but the performance is insane. I'm pretty sure this car, if I'm not wrong, is over 5 to 10 seconds quicker than the previous generation GT3 RS MR. which is even more mad than a normal GT3 RS. And this is as quick, if not even quicker. This thing is quicker than a Senna around some tracks, which is insane. And so now, another big question many people want to know is, what are the pros and cons of owning a car like this, if there are even any cons to owning a car like this?
I think one of the big pros about having this is when you come home after a long day at work, you can consider yourself blessed that you can come and have a look at this. It definitely puts a smile on anybody's face. So another pro is, I personally think it's the most fun car to drive. Having driven different types of cars, different sports cars, it's the most fun car I've ever driven. You can do anything with it. You don't have to be an experienced driver to drive this thing and have a good time. The cons, these cars are valuable with their mileage, so you are tempted to not put any mileage on it, but in order to have fun with the car, you need to drive it. And they do have a run-in program of running it to 1,500 kilometers, so you need to run it until that, so you can rev it all the way to 9,000 and push the car to its limits.
To actually get a full experience. I must say, maybe not so much a con, but the driving experience is quite harsh, but it adds to the driving experience. It's not like you're driving an M2 and the drive is horrible and you can't handle it, and then you don't want it anymore because the car is not dailyable anymore. You're not going to be sitting driving. Well, I say we're not going to, but Eugene and I have other plans one day when you guys start making our YouTube channel blow up and we can afford cars like this. We're going to be dailing them for you too. We're going to be needing back surgeries and chiropractors, but it isn't for everyone to daily drive. It is a track-focused hyper sports car. That's exactly what I call it. No, some people are saying it's overhyped. I don't know what you think about that. Do you think it's overhyped or not?
Personally, I think people make more of the car than it is. This is not the fastest car out there in a straight line. It's, like Matteo said, it's a track-focused car. It is going to get beat by some amazing exotic cars from one robot to the next, but honestly, I think it's perfectly rated by most people who actually appreciate the car and what it's actually designed for. This is the ultimate track car today.
Yes, I have to agree with that. There's nothing else you can say, guys. I mean, if you want to argue, go argue it in the comments. That's fine. Go argue all you want about how overhyped and all this. But when you step inside and you feel the build quality, and then you step inside a Ferrari, then you can't compare the build qualities. It's a Porsche, and it's reliable. It's a Porsche, and it looks good. It's a Porsche. It drives good. It's a Porsche. What more do you need? Even Matt Watson said, would you take a Ferrari or Lamborghini? You take a Porsche. So what do you guys think? I mean, overall, the car is stupidly impressive. Now, I don't know if there's any more he would like to say, and I'll let him say if he has any more to say, but this is just a little bit of what we're going to try and experiment with. We want to get with as many owners as possible, give you guys some guidance on it, and actually, before I forget, there was one question, is the running expenses on these cars. What is like fuel and tires, and because that can't be cheap. And especially when you have an engine like that, a car like this, your right foot isn't often at this position.
Well, I mean, obviously, you don't want to do too much damage to this car because parts are very expensive and they're extremely hard to come by. Harder to come by than the actual car itself. So, obviously, it's got the run-in procedure that you have to do.
Yeah.
They say that for a reason. You shouldn't run this engine hard as soon as it's come out of the factory because you'll run into more problems later on.
Yeah.
We've taken extra precautions. We've PPF'd the whole body with a clear wrap, so if any stones hit it, it's going to scratch the plastic and not the actual paint. Save you a couple bucks. The wheels, not sure how much maintenance you're going to have to do on those because they're high quality wheels.
Yep.
Fuel is obviously expensive, and this thing guzzles fuel. If you're having fun with this car, you're going to have to be back at the petrol station very quickly.
I think the only car, guys, that has more fuel consumption than this is the Range Rover SVR that we drove. You put like 1,000 rand in the car and the needle goes backwards. You need a lot of money for these cars. So the biggest takeaway from something like this is that you're going to need lots of fuel money. And don't break it, because you know that GT3 RSs are very hard to get in the first place. So finding parts for a car that you can't find is going to be very difficult. I mean, speaking about parts you can't find, we're talking to you, Peugeot, Stellantis. You guys better sort your stuff out because it's crazy out there. But yeah, overall, the whole point of this video is just to have a little bit of fun, have a general conversation, get a bit of experience from people who actually own these and drive these on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, so that people like you, car enthusiasts who love cars, get to understand it. I mean, we all know how much it costs to buy a Renault Clio and drive it everywhere, or a Fiat 500, but you don't know how much it costs to drive one of these. And even though some of you might not be able to attain it right now, it is still interesting to know, to get to know what these cars are really like to be with, to live with. And final question, I think, from me is, would you swap this out for anything else?
No, not a chance.
I have to agree. I mean, go over to the driver review. What are you waiting here for? Go click on that video. Go see how it is to drive. Go look at our in-depth review. And overall, I think it's just insane. This car is wonderful. And I have to say again, a big thank you. A really, really big thank you for letting us review this car. And we may have a few other cars of theirs to check out in future. Some really cool things. So stick around. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, we'll check you on the next one, where hopefully we have something special once again. See you guys next time.